Yes, I think we're live. Yes. Okay. Good evening. I am so sorry for the delay. We had a few technical problems. Leslie's in an area where the signal is not that brilliant. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can have a conversation. So I'm just going to go straight into the interview, or to the chat rather. So I'll bring Leslie Desmond in and she can introduce herself for those of you that have been waiting to catch us. And then we'll go into a chat and we'll go from there. So if anybody has any questions and it all flows the way it should do, then please ask questions and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So without further ado, I will bring the very patient, very lovely Leslie Desmond in. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Leslie. Would you
How
like
is
to
everybody
introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Leslie Desmond, longtime horse lover, and actively involved with horses since a young age and adapting daily their horses, life itself. So I've been at this a while and had many mentors that were meaningful to me, and taken the best that I could and left the rest. What didn't fit, I leave behind. What does work, I appreciate so greatly. And fortunately, great people have taught me some very useful things. If I can be of any help today, please ask away.
Thank you. Thank you. So would you like to start just by telling us how you got into horses? So I know I've read a little bit of your bio, but it's better coming from you. So you started pretty young. And if you'd just like to just... Four. You was four. Yeah, wow. So was that while you were still in Germany? Is that when you started with your horses?
No, I came over earlier than that. No, I had my first ride at 4 years old. And I got pretty on horses, bareback, and just holding on to the hair. And so, no, I just had a helicopter. So I was turned loose with horses my life. My grandmother, my mom, father, they were just happy to see me running around. So that's what I did. And no horses. I think is so common nowadays. People have a lot of more formal and more structured environments. Yeah.
Leslie, you was dropping in and out there, so I could only hear little bits of that. So I do apologise, and I'm just trying to see if anybody can let us know. So whoever's watching this, if you can let us know whether you can hear okay, that would be very much appreciated. I don't know if you... So you should be able to see any comments that come up, Leslie. But don't worry if you don't, because I'll read them out. There should be a section.
Take a moment. I'm going to have glasses. They're on the next table, so you'll pardon me. I can't read anything about them, so be right back.
No worries. So, okay. So whoever's watching, if you can let us know. I'm just going to go just have a quick look on YouTube while Leslie comes back, make sure. So we're definitely... Yeah, okay. So we're definitely live on Facebook and we're definitely live on YouTube. So once again, apologies. There was a few technical issues with Leslie's end, and we're both in an area that's quite remote, so the signal's challenging to say the least. Okay.
Seems like signal. Yeah.
Yeah.
For But I'm ready now. I've got a pen and you'll have to read the questions if any are asked because I couldn't find my
Okay,
glasses. I'm sorry.
no problem.
I think
I
it
lost it.
I think it's on your end that it's cutting out because I can still see myself and your screen goes black periodically.
Really?
I don't know.
That's interesting. Okay. So, whoever's watching, if you don't mind, can you just drop a comment so we know that you can see this okay? If you don't mind doing that, and then, and if you can't, can you just let us know which end? Because I'm, again, same as Leslie, I can see myself, but Leslie's dipping in and out. But it's the audio, so if you can let us know, that would be great. Right, while we're waiting for that, hopefully, I know you've got a busy schedule because we tried to get this before you went away, because I know you said you was going away for quite a while. Did you say 6 months? Did I get that right?
Going away just means I'm traveling.
You're traveling? Yeah.
Doesn't mean we we all have phones, so I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not unreachable.
Yeah.
So I could I have a background in horse training, and I have a background in jumping, and I have a background in several riding styles. I've worked with all kinds of horses for most of my
Good.
life. So I started training horses when I was 10 for my uncle. We would get horses at the auction for his summer camp, and he would buy them based on color and just tell me to have them ready in July. They couldn't buck anybody off. So that's how I got my start training horses. I started training horses for him that he bought at the auction. Some were trained, some were started, some were unstarted when I was about 5th grade, right at the tail end. So doesn't look like there's any people on here that are writing in at the moment. So I don't see anything.
So I lost you there for a little while. I heard you say that you was advised to buy horses from the colour, which was I'm sure I've heard that from you. I've heard that somewhere, which was interesting.
I did, well, not the killer per se, the sale at the auction.
Yeah. Did you
And we
say
didn't go
colour
to
to do?
our yard. Said that he chose horses on the basis of color from an
Yeah.
auction, not the
Yes.
yard.
No, that's what yeah. I heard
Yeah.
that bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Color
So the
based
colour.
on. Mhm.
Yeah, sorry, Leslie. It's just intermittent, so I'm really trying to catch the conversation because it's intermittent. That's fascinating. So I'm just going to say to the people that I've heard about you. Sorry, can you hear me?
That's okay.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say to the viewers
Yeah.
that
Now,
I came across you a while ago, and I was fascinated by what I read about a little bit about your history, but more recently, well, a few years ago, it was on the first summit that you appeared on, and I was listening, so I didn't get to go there in person, but I was able to listen to the live streams, and yeah, that was fascinating. That was a really interesting talk. Um, yeah, there was lots of interesting people on there.
thank
You're
you. Yeah.
welcome. Yeah, okay. So I know we've got somebody. Okay, no, there's no comments yet. I haven't got any comments about whether okay. So would
Do
you
you
like
have
to
any
tell
questions for me?
well the
Do
question I wrote, sorry, the question that I did write down was what do horses mean, so when you talk about horses, what do they mean to you? What do they bring to your life? Horses, because we can all say, "Oh, I love horses. I like riding. I like doing this." But what does that bring to your fulfillment in your life when you're around horses?
Well, it gives me something to do that I'm good at and that I enjoy, and helping them in any way is my purpose. I work on their bodies, their feet, their teeth. I help the owners that are new to horses. I've been doing that all my life. I work with people that are at the top of their skills and stuck, people who have reached a plateau. I work with people that are frustrated, people that are hopeful, people that are first-time horse owners. I understand them pretty well, and I help people get to a point where they can leave their frustration and their concerns and a lot of money going out that doesn't need to be going out unnecessarily. Nowadays, it seems like people just spend money on horses they're not riding, for all various types of stuff done. On some, weekly or bi-weekly stipend to fix up this or that. And so I try to help people understand how to get away from the dependency on, get more hands-on so that they can keep more money in their pocket, be a little more independent, and look at their horses as healthy instead of ailing and in need of, many kinds of services. And there's lots of good service and good help out there, but I tend to end up with calls quite often from people that are just at the end of their idea about what to do, because I don't know why, but it's not working for them anyway. I tend to be one of the, one of the last people called or sale or give up. So I wish I were the first, but I'm not. I'm usually the last, but that's okay. I do have a pretty big circle that I go on, a big loop I do around the world and around the country periodically, quite often actually.
Yeah, because you did a trip to the UK recently, didn't you? A little while ago. I know, yeah, you was in the UK.
This year and last year and often, yes, I'm there often. I
Yeah,
have not a lot of nice people there, yes.
yeah.
But I was
No,
in Europe. Yeah. I was in Scotland and Ireland before that, and then I just went abroad to there it just it's 35 years.
that's a long time. That's a long time. That's a lot of work, Leslie.
I enjoy it. Yes.
Yeah. So when you come to the UK, do you find, just for the UK listeners, um, do you find that a lot different that you're presented with? So not the horses, obviously, but expectations um, or questions. Do you find it different from the people that you maybe come visit in the States, or is it generally the same?
No, it isn't the same. Most people in the UK, depending on their age, came up through Pony Club and the British Horse Society, or they were learning from Monty Roberts's system, or one of the more popular things that took the country by storm in the mid '90s. But that's not. I mean, and that effect wasn't just limited to the UK, but there's more of a preponderance of people that were joining up and using that lingo, and then there were that sort of was laid over the British Horse Society background and so on. A lot more jumping and a lot more confidence in the riders in the UK because they get started younger than in the States, and you have horses as a way of life a lot longer. I know that when you stopped fox hunting in Europe, when you stopped fox hunting, I think that was under Tony Blair, shut that down, didn't he? And
I
then,
don't.
that's fine, whatever,
Yeah.
but it sure changed things. And yeah, uh, I'd say that the people in the UK and Ireland and Scotland are a lot more comfortable around animals and about dogs, a lot more laid back about having pets, and a lot more realistic than in other places per se. Other
That's
places don't need to be named. I'm not trying to compare things, but you
no.
asked me to compare them, so I did.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, jumping is something that has never really it's not drawn me, jumping. I think the size of the jumps that you get the horses to jump over is like, crikey, they're bigger than me. So which is, it doesn't take a lot because I'm only tiny. But yeah, hacking out, or as you call trail riding. Um, yeah, that's
Hacking
more
out
of,
works.
yes, yeah, that's my my interest. So you do dentistry, don't you? Because that's something in the UK you don't get many horse people that do lots of different genders. Do you do feet as well? Are you a podiatrist? Do you do hooves?
Uh, I started trimming when I was 14. I'm better now than I was then.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable taking care of most feet when I've got a situation that I'm not comfortable with. I think the most important three words you can have in your vocabulary is "I don't know," and when I don't know what to do, I have a lot of good people to call. So, yes, I've been doing feet for 50 years, more than um, 56 years. I would say I'm 70, going to be 71 next birthday. So yeah, I've been doing feet. I mean, I did. I didn't do work on feet the way I do now when I was 14. But that's when I first picked up some tools and realized that I just was shown, the basics in 8th grade, and then I just started figuring it out after that, asking questions, reading books, getting DVDs. Now
Mm.
Facebook has a lot of good sources of information. I've been to some different classes. My students are pretty good. I've got one student in particular, Hannah McCarger, who's been very helpful in me understanding uh, more than I would have found out on my own for sure. I'm not a
Yeah.
dentist. I'm certain. I certainly do have the credential to go out and do horses, but I know that I don't know enough to make my services publicly available. I've been working at this for 3 years. I do not work on horses for the public, but I do teach all of my students how to put a speculum in a horse's mouth, get comfortable putting their hands in there. I teach people how to read a mouth. I'm pretty good at reading a mouth. I'm pretty good at
Mhm.
charting a mouth. I've learned how to do those things. I'm quite confident on that basis, and I'm very confident to teach it and show people uh, what's going on in the mouth so that they can understand the difference between an unskilled, untrained dental technician and one who actually is qualified to be on the tool and power in your mouth doing and I know I can tell you the biggest difference to other places. Your dentists, your qualified, your certified dentists and vets do not do the front teeth, and that's a choice. But all you have to do is learn how to read the manure to understand how bad a decision that is. And I'll say it straight out: all the teeth grow at the same rate. They're not growing like a rat or a rabbit, but they erupt at the same rate, which is a few millimeters a year. And if you've got the same people on your mouth and they're in there with hand tools or power tools once or twice a year, and they're not doing the front teeth, it explains why you have the kind of manure you do that looks like damp chaff at the bottom of a hay bin, because a tremendous amount of the food can't get properly chewed and properly digested. The enzymes in the mouth are completely ineffective when the food does not reach a small enough size by the time that horse works that tongue and gets that food back to here where they're going to swallow it. Yesterday, I pulled something out that was 7.5 inches long out of a mare that's 23 that has not had her inside. And it's just conscionable to me that people can't understand that if you're going to lower the molars every year and they grow 3 to 4 millimeters a year, and you're going to go in there with power tools twice a year, that explains why when my students put their hands in there and feel these teeth and they get a gushy pulp for a tooth instead of a 3/2 inch, a 3/4 of an inch enamel surface to put their fingers on. Instead, their fingers go down and darn near a hole with a little rim of enamel sticking out the width of your fingernail. Why is it not clear that the front teeth keep growing just as, or erupting, I should say, just as much as the molars? And if you're only going to take down the molars, one would not be surprised then that the manure is full of undigested food, and unchewed stuff coming through the manure this big, this big, this big, this big. So I'm on an educational, I've got some educational momentum built into my students now by request, and I don't intend to stop. People need to understand that education about the mouth is not an option if you want your horse to be functional into the older years. This business of power tooling, using power tools twice a year on the molars and not doing the front teeth would explain why you have molars that are 2 millimeters high, pulp chambers you can stick your finger in, a gap that big between the molars, a gap this big between the molars, and front teeth that are hanging out like this. I mean, it bewilders me. It just bewilders me. I've called a number of the dentists and the dental schools, and I've asked them why. They say, you in America seem to like that. It's not. It's that is correct dentistry. And if you can't get your people up to speed, then come on over here and learn it. And I'll be absolutely flat out saying it, that I'm in support of everyone who goes to the trouble to get an education, but please get a thorough education.
Wow.
Please get a thorough education.
I mean, that makes total sense. If we went to the dentist and they just did certain things, we're not quite the same as chewing as a horse, but yeah, that makes sense. And I've heard that from so I'm not keen on the power tools either, but you know, if you don't know,
I did not say I'm not keen on power tools. Please don't understand that.
no, but you explained how, yeah.
I said that power tools twice a year on molars that erupt 3 to 4 millimeters a year,
Yeah,
and front teeth rest is not effective for longevity. That does not promote a healthy mouth. It does not ensure a proper occlusion. Anybody who doubts what I'm saying, just go pick up the manure in the stall and start looking at the length of the fibers that are coming through that mouth. Okay, if you had that coming out in the diaper of your children, you would be at the pediatrician in half a second. You'd be loaded in the car and on your way. If your child eats a raisin and a walnut and those come out undigested, you have a problem, right?
So when it goes through this system, should it be tiny, tiny? So you shouldn't really see it if the teeth are aligned and they're the right length for chewing. Is that what you're saying, Leslie? That you shouldn't be able to see that?
Well, a lot of it depends on many things. It depends on what they're eating. It depends on it depends on many things. Let's just say horses that are. It depends on. There are many ways and many thoughts on how to properly get a mouth into occlusion, meaning bilateral balance, back to front, left to right. If you're letting the front teeth grow, and you're either doing a hand float as far as you can reach with no speculum and no sedation. Sedation is not necessary for every horse, and it's not necessary for every situation. But if it becomes necessary, or if you find that you've got a broken tooth in there, or you've got a diastema, which is a big space, makes a big pocket, if you have retained decomposing food in the mouth and you suddenly realize you're into a big mess or a cracked tooth back there, it helps to have sedation on board. But the point is, I'm talking about you want to have well-digested food. Looks like well-digested food. I'll just put it that way. Anyone who's raised a child knows if you see 4 complete raisins and 7 complete walnuts and an undigested piece of orange coming through a human body in a baby, you're going to understand that something is amiss. It shouldn't look like the food that's on the plate that you just gave it to them.
No.
Right? A human body and a human digestive system is a process that produces waste. And when the waste looks like waste, but something that you swept off the barn floor, so there's just a gap between, quite frankly, there's a gap between the molars in a lot of these horses, which you can tell. And this is what I teach my students. I want my students to understand how to select the kind of quality care that is going to make sure that their horses are not running out of tooth before the end of a natural life.
Yeah.
I'll leave it like that. You want to have a life that left in the teeth to go the life of the horse, so that you're not trying to feed the horse gruel from 20 years old.
Absolutely.
The oldest horse I've ever seen under saddle was a Cleveland Bay. It was 52 years old, in absolutely wonderful, just vibrant, hardy condition. At 52 years old, taking lessons up in Petaluma, California. And the other horse that I saw, there was a gelding wildcat, just bright-eyed and just marching along under these in the lesson program. He was a magnificent animal. And then about 10 years after that, I ran into a horse that was 47. His feet were not in good shape, but it didn't deter him. He could get out of any fence and he'd go courting. He was a Tennessee Walker Stallion. They left him in Tyre, and he would go 5 miles up and down over a hill with the most ungodly feet you've ever seen, but it didn't faze him. His teeth were still hanging in there. And hay without incident. I mean, he was healthy. He was not ribby. And gosh darn, he was a happy camper. Long as he could twice a year get up, go over the hill and see his sweetheart. He didn't care. But I think he passed when he was 47, and he had a mouthful of teeth he could still use. So this idea that you're just going to be having someone in your horse's mouth without understanding it, all I'll say is it's a choice.
Yeah.
So make sure that people can an educated choice about what kind of service they're going to pay for and what kind of needs their horse in fact has. And it's not to say a dentist, and it's not to say that I've got it in for people that don't have the skills they need. I am absolutely in the corner of anybody who is a dentist, whether they know what they will know in 10 years or not. But if you're a dentist with a mind shut because you think you've learned it all, but you don't include the front teeth in your work, I beg to differ. And I would ask that the clients of people like this would instead ramp up their knowledge and just get the books that are available. I'd be happy to give anybody a list of books, a list of websites to go to, a list of people to call to get another perspective, so that you can make an informed choice based on the actual facts and not just personality or convenience or the guy next door or we've always used him and we've always done it that way. If those are the criteria that you want, well then have at it. But
yeah,
I'm offering something different.
So it's a lot more information. I think sometimes when you're, especially if you're new to horses, you go by what everybody tells you. So you get a vet for the medical stuff, you get a dentist for the dentistry, and you get a farrier for the shoes or the barefoot trimmer, and you hope that each one does it as it should be. And it's only when you get problems, like you said, that they're not eating right, or they've got pain in the jaw, or foot problems, and then you start looking at each one, and it's complicated because it could be the jaw that's affecting the feet. So it's not just it's just that, as you know, it will be the whole picture. So getting that much information for a layman person is not always that easy. So somebody like yourself, and I think it's becoming more available. So the knowledge that you're wanting to share is more available through books, through your clinics, through your audio, through things like this. So people can think, oh, okay, I've had that going on. So they'll look into it. It's about opening people's eyes. Would you agree with that, Leslie? You don't have
It's
to.
easy to conclude.
Yeah. And even when you've been around a horses a while, you think you've got something or you figure something out and there's something else will happen. And you think, okay, so maybe that wasn't right after all. So you're continually searching for knowledge and for insight to what you can see. And it can be a minefield. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, the horse is one system, and I mean, we have this problem in the human medical situation as well. I mean, you go to a guy, you limp into a doctor's office with a sore throat and a problem with your eye or your ear, but you can hardly walk. That guy or woman isn't going to talk to you about the fact that your back is out and that you've got a nerve in your eye that's connected to the hip because your shoes are wrong, for example. I mean,
Yeah,
it's one system. There used to be a thing called a general practitioner. Okay. People like that my great grandfather was a country doctor in Quebec. Okay. He used to go out into Western Canada with his little buggy and his little doctor bag. And, was there. Somebody did a job, a broken leg, someone who needed help with a birth or, eye infection or somebody with whooping cough. I mean, when you were a general practitioner, you had a good idea about how this, but we're no longer expected to be thinking in that way, and we're no longer even expected to think about ourselves that way. So it just depends on what your perspective is, and you can make choices about healthcare.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes you just need somebody just to ding. Okay, let me look into something else, and let me think about it a different way, because we get set into how we think and look at things, and that's the way it's done. So it's like people say, well, that's the way it's always been done, but it doesn't mean to say it's right. It's just, you can look at it slightly differently, and it's getting into
always, like how long? Always 100 years ago, last year,
yeah.
2 years ago, since
Yeah.
COVID. I mean, always is a big word.
It is. I mean, yeah, I was gonna say something else then, but that's a whole different subject. But yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. No, I'm not gonna go down that route. So tell me, Leslie, what have you got coming up in the next few months? What do you got lined up for yourself? Anything that you want to share? Obviously, not what you don't want to share.
Yeah, no. I just I'm a horse trainer, and I'm an educator of other trainers and other serious horse people. I work with a lot of trainers in all disciplines. And I'm going to be starting some foals out at the end of this month in Fort Collins, Colorado, belonging to the woman who owns the Last Resort Equestrian Center out there in Fort Collins. Her name's Lou Ann Goodyear. She has raised a couple of foals from her 2 quarter horse mares, and they have not been haltered. They have not had their feet handled or been in a trailer or learned how to lead and tie. So that's coming up at the end of the month, and the first weekend in October. So I am excited about that. I love working with young horses. It's really fun, because they still have the horse left in them. A lot of these horses that have become dull or disinterested, or they can take a pounding and they're hand fed and pushed on, and they get rewarded from crowding and then smacked in the head for being too close. I mean, those horses are a dime a dozen. They're all over the place because people often nowadays buy horses as a companion or to make up for what they didn't get to do with horses when they were young or raising a family. And it's completely understandable. But by the time you've turned your horse into a big pet, you actually don't have a whole lot of flight left in that horse. Um, it's kind of a dull, big, pushy, comfy thing that just makes you feel good when you see him put a carrot in one end, clean it up out the other end. I mean, there's a lot of that type of horse owner now that is not really actively engaged. That's only one kind, and I'm not knocking it. It's just that there's a certain amount of dissatisfaction that goes along with people who own horses that they feel are sluggish or unresponsive. But the fact of the matter is, if you are treating a horse as a pet, and this is one of the things that I'll be showing people in the end of the month, and again in Detroit in about the middle of October, I've got something up in New Boston, Michigan, at the R&B quarter horses, and there are a lot of there's some dressage riders there and jumper riders there. It's not just because it's a quarter horse place that it's like Western or something. They all come. It doesn't matter about that. But there's really only one thing a horse needs you to know in the end. There's only really one thing. Do you know what that is?
No, tell me.
Do you have a horse?
I have two. I'm going to tell you something in a minute, but just tell me what that is.
Well, it doesn't matter whether you have a racehorse or a pulling horse or a reiner or jumper or dressage horse. Doesn't matter if you have a mini or a donkey or even if it's a goat. They only need to know where you want their feet, in what sequence, at what speed, and when. And most people are just too busy at the head, patting, pushing, haltering, feeding, brushing, socializing, hugging, kissing, all this stuff. And the fact is, you can do what you want. I'm not the boss. But by the time you're blocking vision and you're blocking 50% of the vision on a flight animal, wondering why he pushes you out of the way so he can see. And then, feeling as though you got a pushy, disrespectful horse. But if you have the kind of social need or the emotional gratification requirements that would set you at his head always, blocking his shoulder, blocking himself, pushing him back in his neck because he's too close, you have to think about what amount of closeness fits you and why he gets used to being there before you correct him or label him pushy and start correcting him for being too close. Remember that if he's rewarded for crowding by taking an apple or a carrot out of your hand, he can hardly be blamed for being too close and thinking that that's what's expected. People have to start with their contribution to the problem. And when they do that, then they start having a horse that's a lot more engaged and engaging.
Yes, yeah, I mean, I know I'm probably guilty of that. No, I don't probably know that I am guilty of that. And I was smiling when you mentioned about a companion horse. So I have two horses, and I don't. One of them is a quarter horse, and she's 21, and she's not ridden. She's not ridden. She has something called shivers, but I don't focus on that anymore. So she was diagnosed with something called shivers. So she is retired, but for me, spending time just in the field, just being with them, gives me a lot. So even though she's not ridden, she's very much part of my life. She's not just I don't just go feed her. I spend time with her. But I'm smiling because I did get a companion, because she was in so the house that I'm in now is my dear friends, and they've moved to Lincolnshire, which is where I am at present. And she used to be in a herd next to and with another horse, my friend's horses. So when they moved away, she was on her own, and it was really hard and sad to see, because I saw her change, her whole demeanor changed. So for me, I thought I'd never do that to to her again. So I wanted a companion, but I also wanted something that I could ride maybe later. So that's what I got. I got a Welsh Section D. So I've got a quarter horse and a Welsh Section D. And they're both very different. And yeah, so I thought I'd just share that bit with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure they are different.
Yeah.
I need to give you a fair warning that in about 10 minutes I need to go. I've got a 3:30 appointment that I have to drive to.
Oh yeah,
So
no, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, today's chat and get together was a bit of a challenge anyway to get together through lots of different reasons. So, and we've had a bit of a conversation. But if you're happy to come back another time, we'll have well, we've definitely got it all flowing okay. We'll have another conversation. That's if you want to, Leslie. It's entirely up to you because I've not even scratched the surface of where I wanted to go, but I'm struggling to listen because it is cutting out my end.
uh,
See, I didn't even get that bit. You cut
I've got
out.
time for one.
You've got
I've got
time
for one more question.
For one more
One more
question.
question.
Okay, I'm seeing if anybody's nobody's asking anybody. Anybody want to ask a question from Leslie? Okay, so I'll try to think of a question.
Well,
So I actually, yes, there's one question. If there was one, this is probably a cliche thing, one piece of guidance that you give to somebody that's just starting out with horses, that really wants to have a horse and they've got this dream, what would you advise them? What would you advise them before they actually buy a horse? What would you, if you were sat next to them, what would you say to them? If you can do that in a short answer.
learn how to take care of a horse somewhere else before you start with your own.
That's very good. That's very good.
And then learn what they need, volunteer somewhere, get a job mucking stalls, learn how to bed a stall down, learn how to clean 4 feet 12 months a year, learn how to recognize thrush, learn what saddle fit is, understand when you have a sheared shoulder and that you're not going to ride because the scapula is jammed up into the withers, understand what occlusion is, learn how it feels on that head when your mouth is out of occlusion. These are skills that absolutely anybody, a 9-year-old kid, all they have to do is understand that when their own tooth hurts, they chew something because they're losing the tooth, it hurts and doesn't feel right. They'll start to understand what to look for in a horse's mouth. All the stuff that I'm teaching now, most of it I learned than some of the details of the dental work. Most of the stuff I learned as I was a child. I mean, you're talking basic skills. Just get out there and find. But the problem is finding some backyard livery stable or some backyard place that'll have you, because most of the people now at this point are either retired with old horses in the backyard, or they are running barns that are super competitive, and it's go, let's get in the show ring, let's win, let's do what we have to, let's call the vet, get the injections, take all the shortcuts, let's resell, let's get this one in, this one out. That's one way to go about it. But you have to really, I'd say the first thing is you got to figure out what's your motivation for owning a horse, because anybody out there, you can be sold a lot of horses that are unsuitable easily.
Yeah.
I had 2 students this year that bought horses sight unseen on the internet and wondered why there was something wrong with them. I mean, this is not like shopping for a dress. Back to, it's a big decision. It's a big decision, of course. Job you know that you rely on, that you don't have. Can you hear me now?
You break only just. It's very, very Daleki, very, very. Yeah.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what I was going to say is, buying a horse is like getting a dress at the charity shop or a brand new dress and then realizing if it doesn't fit or you gain weight or you lose weight or somebody doesn't like it on you, you don't like it yourself on you after a week of wearing it, stick it in the charity shop and go get another one. But people are sort of expected to recycle their horses. That's part and parcel with what's going on in the horse world, is that, they're disposable. There are not as many people nowadays because of land and space limitations who are even thinking about keeping a horse to the end of its life. Those people are few and far between, if you want to go on my route. Certainly in places where there's more land available in the West or the Northwest or Western Canada or, rural parts of Wales and Ireland and Scotland and England, all around Midlands, you have people who are prepared to do that. But as far as the industry itself, it's pretty much of a quick turnover thing now. And if you want to get a horse, you have to decide who you're going to listen to. What book you're going to read. You can't just waltz in there and throw a checkbook at the horse deal. I've got 2 clients right now that are drugging the horses to go on a trail ride. I don't support that. I don't support that. They sold the wrong horse. They don't understand how dangerous it is to ride a horse that's being sedated. I broke my back when I was 24 on a sedated horse at the racetrack, for heaven's sakes. I mean, I know what can happen. It change your life, break your back. So, this idea that you're going to be having riding lessons on sedated horses and showing sedated horses and injecting the joints every 5 minutes because you've actually bought a destroyed horse already. This kind of thing is what gives the horse industry a sad name. And it's the thing that is, I find it unacceptably exploitive, absolutely unacceptably exploitive of the animal and of the customer. Puts you at risk. So I have to run, sorry to say.
No, that's fine. Listen, can you just hang on 2 minutes while I pop you out? And I just want a quick word before you go, but I'm going to say, so do you want to say bye to the audience? And then I'll just pop you out. So if you'd like to say bye, Leslie, before you shoot off.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I would say goodbye and thank you for your time and your kind attention. And if their questions show up later, I can certainly type some answers, or we'll pick this up again at your convenience.
Perfect. Okay, I'll just pop you out and I'm going to say bye. Thank you everybody for being patient, and I hope you managed to get that. And I love listening. Hopefully we'll put that out as an audio. But Leslie will come back another time and we'll go a bit deeper because there was a lot to talk about there. Take care. Thank you very much. Catch up with you soon.